Hello everyone and welcome back to episode 3 of the EveryDay Pundits Podcast. My name's Nathan and I've got my other host here, Evan.
Hello again, Nathan.
Hello again. Episode 3 is flying by. So on today's episode, what are we going to cover today, Ev?
Well, obviously it's Sunday, so we're going to talk about the F1 that's just wrapped up in Hungary. I think you're going to review the cricket again, which is going well.
Been done so far?
Well, because it's currently going on as we're recording this, so we're gonna kind of break it down a little bit. Some of the football that's happened, and the NBA restarting pretty soon, and also we're going to take some questions that we've had.
We've had a few people message us about a few things. Especially about our Lions team that we gave in episode 1. So I think we'll run through some suggestions that we've been given by some people that have messaged us. So that'll be quite good. We have started putting timestamps on the video itself and in the description. So if you really don't want to watch a particular bit, or there's a particular bit you just want to skip to and watch that, if you just hop down in the description, there's going to be timestamps there. And if while you're down there, you might as well click the subscribe button and drop us a like, or if you could share around, that would be really appreciated.
Check out our socials as well.
Yeah, all the social media links are in the description as well.
We're starting to post shorter clips as well, so
be on the lookout for those. We've had one of the shorter clips, so I think we'll be uploading highlights like as and when we go. Just so it kind of fills in a few of the days. Maybe until we can start getting into maybe recording 2 a week, which is something we are going to be looking at in the future if we can logistically figure it out.
And face cam eventually, but
eventually. So should we start off with the Formula One?
Let's
get right into it. Another action-packed week.
Another great weekend. It's not disappointing right now, is it? The F1.
I mean, if you're an F1 fan after such a long break off, you can't really be disappointed with what's come back so far. 3
brilliant races back to back, and then Hungary's just lived up to it again, which you love to see, to be honest.
It was an exciting. Like, I think some people were saying, might be worried that there's not very many overtaking opportunities in Hungary, but you wouldn't guess it from today's race.
There was some great
sectors
races where you're following the cars.
Pretty much.
Sector 2 and 3, but there was still some great racing, especially that turn 1. There was so many great moves going on there.
Should we just get it out of the way now so we don't have to talk? Because we seem to just talk about it every week. We know Mercedes are best, okay? We know they're the best, and they just seem to just dominate every week. So we've said that now. I mean, we will talk about it later, but we'll gloss over it for now because it's just basically common knowledge at this point that car is pretty much unbeatable.
It looked like it was on rails. Hamilton just loves the circuit, and he won again his 8th time.
Great.
And let's just move on from that. And
we'll come back maybe at the end to a bit of Mercedes talk, but
that car is ridiculous. It's not fair. You can't qualify in the dry over a second quicker than the next cars. It's ridiculous.
And you can't lap both Ferraris either. I mean, I think he lapped everyone up till 6th place. I think.
But
Albon, maybe 5th place.
No, it was 6th. Albon was the last person who didn't get overtaken. But
I know, that's just crazy. Really,
that's ridiculous.
Speaking of Ferrari, I think we have been quite harsh on. I wouldn't say harsh. I would say it's probably warranted, but we have talked a lot about the issues Ferrari have been having. It was definitely probably improved this week.
They had a much better weekend.
They did have a much better weekend. Still not good enough.
No.
I think from Ferrari's point of view, they'll be happy that they finished in the top 10.
But again, it's only one driver. In the top 10. The positive was they actually looked good in the wet this week.
Yeah, they did.
In free practice 2 and qualifying 5th and 6th. Nothing to be sniffed at, especially with how strong those Racing Point cars looked.
Yeah, they were
all
dominant.
Weekend. Yeah.
Well, I think with Ferrari, the first couple of laps Ferrari had were actually pretty good.
Yeah.
Like the first 5 or 10 laps, Ferrari were actually looking really good.
But then here it comes again, Ferrari strategists.
Yeah, it didn't work out well, did it?
Deciding to put Leclerc on the soft tyres from the start, which wasn't a good move. He was really struggling for grip.
Yeah, he was.
And then Vettel actually had a good race, to be fair. He had a much better
He drove well.
Yeah.
I feel like if he wasn't stuck behind Leclerc for a fair few laps, I feel like the team should have said, let him pass, because he was much faster.
But it was, again, just the drama from the start. Obviously, they were expecting a dry race. Turns out everyone came out on intermediates.
Except the Haas's. I mean, they came out on intermediates.
Yeah, one of the Haas.
They didn't start the race.
Came out on full wet. And
yeah, I know.
That was a weird decision. It wasn't that wet. And then before the race even started, you had Verstappen who just binned it into the wall.
Yeah. To be fair, the fact they managed to do a suspension repair as well.
They had 20 minutes and they fixed that car, and how they've done that.
That was great, really,
incredible. But then, literally after before the lights went out, the Haas's were in the garage, got their slicks on, and they were off. And they were actually running third and fourth for a long time, and
yeah, they
were doing well.
I think they'll be happy they got on the points, and you could call it a stroke of luck or a stroke of genius that they decided to start off.
I'd say that's actually a great move by the Günther Steiner's team has made there, and actually said, you know what, let's just go risky, because they saw there wasn't that much track, that standing water on the track, and
few people got caught out by the standing. Bottas, didn't he?
Bottas got caught out by the start.
He hit the water and his tyres went stone cold.
Because he was trying to defend from Leclerc, and he just went through the standing water, got caught, and Leclerc came back at him. But Bottas obviously looked like he started, looked like he jumped the start a little bit.
Yeah, he dropped a lot of places.
He dropped back to 7th, wasn't it?
Yeah, and few people had horrendous starts. Lando, he had a dreadful start as well.
Sad for Lando, but there we go.
I think he's had a horrible race, and I think he's probably glad to see the back of that race.
But everyone has them. It's a learning curve,
and it's only cost him one place in the drivers' championship.
Yeah, he's gone from 3rd to 4th in the drivers, which is still amazing.
I think I would be happy if I was Lando if I was 4th after 3 races.
Oh, 100%. You can't ask for a better start for the McLarens who knew what they were going to be. It looked like they were going to challenge for the 4th.
Well, look, they might have been bankrupt before the start of the season, and now they're just looking fantastic. Great race from Sainz. Speaking of McLaren,
Sainz had a phenomenal weekend.
Some great battles in that race from Carlos Sainz.
Yeah, even though I know he only finished 10th, which doesn't look great in the end. Where they were comparatively to where they've been at Styria was much better this weekend from Carlos Sainz.
Yeah, definitely.
Didn't seem to fall back as much. Whereas last week, he was obviously 3rd and then came back to the pack.
Yeah.
Massively.
Well, I think Norris will not like the replay of his start. No. Definitely not.
But
both the Ferraris, great drive off the grid. They were very good starts from both Ferraris.
And I think one of the even more impressive things was how Max Verstappen managed to go from 7th to 3rd by the end of the first corner. He was already in 3rd position, which was...
I gotta say though, Bottas was just eating time. There was a few laps where he took out 1.82 seconds in a lap, for several laps in a row. And I think for Max to be able he did defend on that last lap pretty well.
Oh, he defended brilliantly.
Bottas from... Yeah. And I think, you said when the race was going on, once he didn't make that overtake at turn 1 on that last lap, it was kind of, he
wasn't close enough. He tried to go in deep, and then he just missed, and that was it. There was not going to be any...
Because he had DRS as well, Bottas. Did Max have DRS
on
the car in front?
I don't think he did. I think he was, it was kind of 0.9 seconds, so it was close. Well, Bottas was far away, and he was just a bit further off from Ricciardo to get DRS. So, but got to give it to him. All the issues they've had this weekend, the power, the car. Even during the race, he was complaining about the power.
Definitely.
And the crash before, they've managed to fix it, and he's put it on 2nd.
Yeah,
brilliant drive from him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Probably did deserve the drive of the day, because it didn't look like he was going to start. They got it with seconds to spare. They managed to get
him somehow managed to get him on the track.
Yeah, I think you definitely want to touch on the phenomenal weekend that Racing Point have had.
I mean, I've given a lot of praise to Sergio Perez over the last couple of episodes. I kind of neglected Lance Stroll a bit, and what a fantastic race he drove. He really, was sending it. He finished quite a long way off the pace of Lewis Hamilton, but pretty much everyone did. If he hadn't pitted again, Lewis, to take this off,
it would have been
fastest
30 seconds.
Yeah, he would have been 30 seconds ahead of Max in 2nd place.
Yeah.
And I think Lance Stroll drove a really good race, in my opinion. I think he should be very happy with how he drove the race. I think Perez didn't have a terrible race. He had a bad start, and then he managed to kind of drag himself up a few places up the field. But I think I've talked a lot about Perez, and for me this week, all credit's got to go to Stroll.
I think he's been outshone this weekend, personally.
Yeah, all the credit's got to go to
and especially with
Stroll.
All this talk coming in about Vettel to what will be Aston Martin racing next year. Looks like if he can keep putting in performances like this, they won't. The thing of losing Perez won't be as bad.
Yeah,
and if they pick up Vettel, who knows?
I think like a lot of people have said in response to the whole Vettel and Racing Point discussion is that I think a lot of people said, well, if they don't drop Stroll, are they really looking out for the best interests of the team? I think a lot of people view Perez as the better driver, which I would probably still say I view him as the better of the two drivers. I mean, you can't judge off one race, but I would say that if Stroll keeps putting in performances like that argument is probably not going to be justified.
No, exactly.
Soon, and I think there could be a very good case for keeping him on the team because he really did. He was fast today.
He was rapid,
quick.
Absolutely,
he was really
rapid.
good. Like the Racing Point just was stuck to the ground.
And the biggest takeaway was they managed to get third and fourth in qualifying.
No, it's crazy
at a track that no one knew what they were going to be like, especially with the aero of say the Red Bulls and the Ferraris. The Ferraris, granted, we've tortured them
We've talked a lot about Ferrari. The upgrades they made helped, but they, obviously they're not up to par with the rest of the cars in front of them.
1.3 seconds they were behind Mercedes, which is horrifying if you're a fan of Ferrari, and that Scarlet Red got lapped by both Mercedes.
I know, both. Actually,
I don't think it was initially.
Bottas almost. If there had been another lap, they would have been lapped.
But
they would have been overtaken.
Like Brundle said in commentary, that's a significant moment in the tail of this season when you see Vettel having to be blue flagged
to let Hamilton pass. Yeah,
we haven't seen something that crazy since the early years of the Mercedes, where they were like over half a second, like 30 seconds quicker than everyone else, and they were just going wild. But it's scary.
It is scary good. Like some of the onboard shots of the Mercedes, you're just looking at it going, they're flat out through that corner. And other teams are having to knock off like 20-30% of their speed, and the Mercedes is just flat out.
Like they made the joke to Hamilton saying it's on rails, and he was like,
but that's what it looks like.
It looks like it's just planted.
Like some of the aerial shots as well, when you look at the difference between the lines that the Mercedes is taking, and then the next like trio of teams can take. The Racing Points, the Red Bulls.
Well, you were astonished by the braking and the difference in braking markers.
But that's what I think. When Bottas came out on cold hards and try and close down the gap between him and Verstappen, I think, when you can brake that much later and you can go into corners that much faster,
it just gives you confidence, doesn't it? That you can,
and getting heat into the tires and the brakes. If you can brake later and corner faster, I'm not a race engineer, but you would assume that that would probably give you an advantage in getting your tires and your brakes warm quicker.
I think there's something to be said about the dreadful weekend that Nicholas Latifi's had.
Yeah, I felt bad.
It was the worst possible thing he could have had coming out of Styria, and to be honest, a good qualifying. Like
both the Williams,
he got it 15th. Like they got two cars into Q2.
Well, he was up in 10th after 3 laps. Latifi was in the points,
and he was doing
great start.
Latifi does what Latifi's been doing. He just messed it up, and then the pit stops, unsafe release caught.
That was a really
caught Carlos Sainz's front wing. And punctured. Latifi got a puncture and then spun, and then had to drag it all the way around from turn 1.
Yeah, I think at that point they probably should have retired the car.
I think it was.
You can't drive the car that far round the track. You have to drive it all the way round the track, and you could see from some of the shots it looked like there was some floor damage.
Yeah,
but after that, his pace got a lot slower.
Well, he couldn't keep up, and then he spun it again late in the race, and
he's probably just had severely compromised downforce. Probably.
I think it was. I understand the experience of driving because he'll be back there next year, and you want to give him as much experience as you can. But I think you just got to cut your losses there. You're 3 laps down.
Save the car.
Yeah, save the car, save the engine, do whatever you can. But I think that's a waste.
Yeah.
And
George Russell as well, I feel like he'll be looking at the start he got in the race and feeling he could have done a lot more with the grid position that he had.
But he kind of let it go a bit, didn't he? It wasn't. It seems like the Williams has got good qualifying pace yet again, and then when it gets to the race, they can't if it's tyre deg or if it's whatever, they just can't manage the race very well.
Speaking of tyre degs, we spoke about this while the race was on. Something about Ferrari's setup, they've got a real issue with tyre deg.
Well, it was after 20 laps.
And for some reason, both cars seem to have a real big problem. They just lock up.
Yeah, those inside rights.
Yeah, right-handers, Vettel has locked up every race so far going into a tight right.
Yeah.
And Leclerc locked up today as well.
Yeah, and
big lockups.
And it was after 20 laps, Vettel was complaining about the wear on his front left. And
he was a medium as well.
You could see it. And after he locked up and went wide and Albon went past him, we had a look and we were like, that front left is so worn. And that was not that far, like maybe 10 or 12 laps after they just put on a set of mediums.
You
don't expect the tyre to fall away that quickly.
No, definitely not.
And it says something. I think the worst weekend, unfortunately, has to go to AlphaTauri and Pierre Gasly.
Well, his car just gave up, didn't it?
Even despite Latifi's 3 spins, Gasly had the worst weekend imaginable. He couldn't get going.
Even his car just said, mate, I'm not doing this anymore. Get me back to the carriage.
And he still managed to get a 10th place qualifying. He managed to get into Q3 with a car that was basically broken.
Yeah.
And it shows that he's still a good driver. I know he's got dropped by Red Bull, but that personally, from that seat against Max Verstappen, might not be the worst thing.
No, I think, well, we set aside again. We've set aside a segment to talk about Red Bull. Really, yeah. Well, do you want to go into it now?
No.
You don't want to go?
No, we'll get back to it.
We'll get back to Red Bull, shall we? Okay, fair enough. But yeah, I got to say, fair play to Haas, though. They did hold up the field quite a lot in the first 20 laps.
It was probably the people that it benefited was Verstappen, just allowed him to get that gap in second and really push on from there.
I mean, but that's the thing. When Magnussen got overtaken by Bottas, he was actually giving it back next corner. He was like, he was going for it.
But they defended well. I think the real disappointment are either McLaren or Renault this weekend. Maybe it was their strategy with the tyres, like coming in when they did.
I think Lando was just a case of every now and again you're probably going to have a horrible race. Yeah. I think that was just what happened to Lando.
And he was unlucky. He got caught out by the pit stops. They had a slow stop, and it meant that he was compromised. Obviously, pitting second to his teammate as well.
There were some dreadful pit stops. There was Sebastian Vettel's first pit stop. He couldn't find a gap, couldn't be let out. Again, that really compromised his race. Speaking of, you said the worst weekend. I feel like the worst incident of the weekend's got to go to Kimi Räikkönen getting a grid penalty when you were dead. 5-second time penalty when you were dead last. Being in the wrong position on the grid when you were dead last.
The only way you can defend that is maybe he's seen where the Haas's have jumped in the pits, and for some reason he's thought he's moving up, but I don't know what he's done. He's just
still funny though.
Yeah, because obviously he's going to line up behind Romain Grosjean, so I've got a feeling that he's seen Grosjean go into the pits thinking, oh, well, there's the car in front of me, and maybe he's just missed the spot. But how can you're an experienced driver. You've been driving for what?
Well, you're the oldest driver on the Formula 1 circuit. You've been doing it a long
70 odd years of experience, and you do that? That's shocking, mate. What are you doing?
Just makes me laugh.
What are we doing?
Time penalty for wrong grid position when you were dead last.
I think now we should probably get on to it. Let's get on to the situation surrounding Alex Albon and Red Bull. Currently,
well, I think it's another incident. We've had the Ferrari Vettel drama. Now we've had the Red Bull Hamilton drama.
Yeah.
And now we've had the Renault Racing Point drama,
which they said
ongoing.
3 weeks they reckon.
And now we got this, the Albon Red Bull drama. Can't say there hasn't been excitement in the first couple of weeks back.
But you really do feel for Alex Albon that there's such a clear favoritism shown towards Max.
Yeah. I think Albon is doing well with a car that's not... Like, I remember last couple of weeks I've said that I do agree. I think Albon needs to commit more because I think he's still not used to the car. No. But considering that they're putting so much more effort into Verstappen's car, he's doing as well as you can expect him to do.
Yeah.
When you look at the fact that they're putting so much more effort into making Verstappen's car, race quick.
Yeah.
Like really fast.
Like someone pointed out to us with the aero, the back wings on the plates. There's more aero given to Verstappen, and Alex Albon, you can tell that he's just not happy with whatever's going on.
That's what he's saying today. He's like, I need more power. Give me more power. You just think like he's accepted a seat at a good team with a good car
that he's earned.
Yeah, really. Definitely. And now they're not letting him use it to its full potential.
Yeah, and he's you can tell that he's a bit annoyed and incensed by what's going on.
Well, that's when in qualifying he said, I said to you, don't let me out in traffic.
He said to them in Q2 and then again in Q3. He's reiterated, I did say, do not put me out in traffic, because he knows that if he's in traffic, he's going to be compromised, and the car didn't have the aero to compete. And I thought it was brilliant. Or George Russell, well, came out and said he's being made to look like an idiot, which we all know he's not.
Yeah.
And you could tell that he was impassioned by, the fact that his mate essentially is being mugged off by Red Bull just so they can further Verstappen, because they're like, oh no, someone might actually be as good or is quick like Verstappen. Oh, let's not give him the same package. What is the point of having a second driver? They may as well just
but
enter
the thing
one
is,
car.
I think I would probably say Albon won't be as quick as Verstappen, even if they're in exactly the same car.
Yeah.
So you don't have to worry about that. He's a less experienced driver. I still don't think he commits as much as Max. Max really is aggressive, very late braking, and I don't think Albon is that type of driver. So I would probably say he won't be as quick.
But how can you tell when you're already on an uphill battle with your own team and your own aero and your own engine and everything else that goes into it? How can you really get the best performance when you look into challenge Mercedes for constructors?
That's the point as well. When like today, when Bottas drops down to within one or two places, and sometimes Albon and Bottas were battling. You're basically making it so he cannot compete with that car.
And in a slower car, he's outperformed Ferrari again, and he's been doing it consistently since he's come into that seat, and he's clearly shown that he's got the speed, but just give him the same car. That's
we know
all
he's got
want.
The talent.
Yeah,
just give him a chance.
Exactly.
He's at your team. He's driving well.
Yeah.
He's nothing to say he's not driving well. He is definitely driving well, but I think as fans of Formula One, you just don't want to see that.
No, you don't want to see people having different, basically like handicap from their teammate, when it's sad to see, to be honest.
Yeah, and the thing is, I feel like it could, if they want to, teams do it all the time. They have a favourite. Look at Leclerc and Vettel. Yeah, Ferrari. They're at least they're in the same car, but they'll always give preference.
We understand that there's number one drivers at teams. Like Hamilton is clearly the number one driver over Bottas 3.0, but at least they give them the same playing field. They're like, right, you boys go sort it out. Show us what you can do. They're not.
I think they'd be better served if they gave Albon a fast car.
But they basically cement this season, especially with their pace and everything they've got. They'd cement second place easily.
Would you like salt and pepper?
Yeah, exactly.
On the platter.
They're like, they're basically like, okay, we've got Max, so there's our challenge. Alex, you just lock up fourth or fifth or whatever you can do. Just go out there and do it. We don't.
Yeah.
And I think the problem is that second seat now at Red Bull is becoming toxic, and the whole environment around it is really starting to become alarming, because who's going to want to come in from the young ranks, like the Yuki Tsunoda at Carlin or any of their young driver programs, who's going to want to come in and take that seat when they know, well, I haven't got a fair advantage? Like Gasly was hampered last year, and like they said, I know he wasn't as quick as Verstappen, and that was never going to happen. And they've always claimed that they had the same parts, but when you're seeing images of different stuff,
the aero, the rear wing,
when you're seeing images of other stuff, how can you say that? And it's something that needs to be addressed either privately or Albon to come out and say it publicly, because obviously he's not going to.
Well, he tried to, they shut down the race. They said we'll talk to it when we talk about when we get back to the garage.
Yeah, because he said, I told you not to do it, not to put me out, and they said we'll talk about it later.
Yeah, we'll talk about it later.
Yeah, and I get they don't want to broadcast it, but he's going to feel upset, and he looked visibly upset, and his friends around the paddock who know how good he is, even Max knows how good he is. That's what George was saying, and he could be one of the more promising young drivers that they've had. But if you're just trying to protect Max, you're not doing yourself a service, and in fact, you're doing yourself a disservice by really holding back someone that could be flourishing if he was allowed to drive.
Yeah, okay, I definitely agree.
Now. I will
I agree. I agree completely. Everything you said was absolutely correct. I think Formula One, there's enough of a difference between the cars as it is without, you can't really compare the Alfa and the Williams to the Mercedes and the Red Bull. But, if you've got two drivers of Red Bull, why would you give one they're not even trying to hide the fact that it's a better car. And I also agree. I don't think it's right. And I think
you can't have a Red Bull going out in Q2 and complaining about where he's being positioned. That Red Bull should be getting out of Q2.
Especially when he said, don't put me out in traffic. And what do? They release him into a group of 4 cars.
Yeah.
And that was, he needed a fast lap as well. Yeah. He was down there. He needed the fast lap. And they knew he needed a fast lap to get him up into Q3.
And they still sent Max out first.
Yeah, I know.
And without the traffic. And he qualified behind George Russell, who had an amazing weekend. Good
everything's
for him.
Coming up George the last couple of weeks, isn't it? I said this on the last one. I said everything's coming up Lando.
The young Brits are really showing up at the moment. They are running it. I know it wasn't a good race in the end for the young Brits, but qualifying and the recent weeks, it's been fantastic.
I don't think we should spend too much more time talking about Formula One.
No.
27 minutes in now to the Formula One discussion.
But we do. The only thing we want.
I'll say you want to quickly run through your biggest movers in the power rankings.
Talk about some of the biggest changes to our power rankings, which will be up on our website eventually, and we'll see the articles.
Yes, when I can stop having issues with it, but we won't talk about it.
There's stuff that's going on. Obviously, before this weekend, he's going to drop a bit. Now probably in the 3rd iteration, but Lando Norris obviously was previously 12th in the driver rankings and is now up to 4th, but I feel like he's going to be about 7th or 8th. But that's a +8, who I think he thoroughly deserved it.
He earned it, yeah.
After his Austrian...
Probably should just stay as well. These rankings were... We had the pre-season, pre-Austria rankings.
Yes.
These were the rankings after Austria, so this isn't taken into account today's race.
Yeah,
but
there will be ones with the Hungary specifically, but currently we're just working on the website and trying to get it up and running. Daniel Ricciardo's gone down, but I do want to mention that we have now, because we've seen the cars on track, we have factored in how the cars have been performing, how the drivers are performing with the car.
You can't discount the car, really, can you?
No, exactly. Like, as much as you can say it's talent, otherwise it'd be the same every week, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
You've got to bring the cars and how they've been driving with the car into this. So that's why Daniel Ricciardo slipped from 4th to 9th in our rankings. Vettel's gone from 6th to 10th. He may have a bit of a jump. Lance Stroll's gone up. We didn't rate him as highly because we did need to see what he was going to be like and how good this racing point was.
He loves being in the RP20.
He loves it. And probably the only other people that have really gone down would be Ocon. He hasn't looked on it since he's come back.
No, he has looked a bit.
Yeah. He's not...
I would say uncomfortable, personally. That would be the word I'd
He was showing a bit of glimpse. Like, he was showing glimpses...
Did race well today.
Recently, yeah. And over the weekend, he's been showing his glimpses of what he can do. But he has really suffered in the race. And it's really not looked good. And then obviously Romain Grosjean and Latifi 19th and 20th respectively.
Yeah.
Can't see too much change at the moment.
No.
I know.
I think Grosjean had a good race today.
He had a good race, but I feel like that was mainly down to the track and where they put him. They instantly pitted him. Okay, so I think we should move on now.
Yeah.
From the F1. And I know that you have been engrossed by the cricket that's been going on.
Second test has been great. I mean, a couple of rainy days which just put a down on things. But, I mean, I know last time I talked a lot about the West Indian bowling attack, because for me, that was the one thing that I took away that was really impressive from the day. But I think now I got to talk about the England batting in the first innings. Like, I mean, I think a lot of we made a lot of predictions last week, several of which were drastically wrong, but quite a few of the ones we made about the cricket actually turned out quite true. You know, we both said that we thought England would move a more aggressive batsman further down the order.
Yeah.
We both said we thought Denny would be dropped for Joe Root, which happened.
Was the obvious choice.
You predicted the Ben Stokes ton.
And you went for Root, but he didn't.
Yeah, Root, that's not.
Okay.
Yeah.
But also you did mention that you want to see more of an improvement from Sibley up the...
yeah, I wouldn't even say I think I needed to see him improve. What I needed to see was, you know, he was very measured in the first test. He was slow is the only word for it. You know, but that's his game. That's the whole point of what he's included in the side to do. And I said it last week, I have no problem with him playing the anchoring role. I had a problem with how the rest of the batting lineup was put in, because you can't have the top three all pretty slow. And when I say slow, I don't mean it in a bad way, but you know, his scoring rate is slow.
Yeah.
And when you have three top order batsmen who all, you know, take their time getting into things, and they don't go after the loose ball as much. Yeah. The pressure builds up, and that the West Indies absolutely maximised on the pressure, because, you know, Burns wasn't scoring, Sibley wasn't scoring.
No.
Then Burns played a loose shot because they hadn't had a boundary in like 4 overs. Maybe not, that might be an exaggeration, but you know, they hadn't had many runs come out of the last couple of overs.
But then Stokes suffered because he didn't have that person that could stick in.
Stokes came in and there was nobody. Yeah, he didn't have that.
No.
And just piles on the pressure again. And although, you know, they did make changes to their batting lineup, they brought Zach Crawley further down the order, who unfortunately got a duck. But you notice when Joe Root came in, Sibley put over a lot of the scoring to Joe Root. And, you know, he didn't score massively, but he pushed on from the get-go, Joe Root. You know, he was pushing on. And I saw a great comment, actually, on the ECB Facebook page. You know, people talk about Dom Sibley being slow, but, you know, I'm sure Joe Root was wishing he was still out there.
Yeah.
And Sibley, I would say, a very patiently constructed 100, which he thoroughly deserved. He was in there, he was anchoring the team, he was playing very strategically. You could tell the West Indies wanted to bowl at Dom Sibley rather than Ben Stokes. And, you know, Ben Stokes came in and he did what Ben Stokes does. And it was probably a more measured innings than we've mostly seen from Ben Stokes.
Yeah.
But, you know, he was the one knocking the ball about for the most part.
He's in there for about 8 hours looking at the timings.
It's not how he wants to play, but he went in and he did the job. That's exactly what I said last week. A lot of what the West Indies did was they came in and they did what they needed to do to get the team over the line. And that's exactly what England did in the first innings. Patient, but, you know, Ben Stokes, if you look at the way the runs were scored, Ben Stokes is clattering boundaries around the ground, you know, being aggressive, ball outside, you know, the off stick. He's going to go at it. He's going to play at it if he thinks it's there to be hit. Whereas Sibley won't, because Sibley needs to bat the whole innings. And he did just that.
And it's reflected in the stats and the scores. So Sibley obviously had 120 off 372.
Yeah.
And Stokes had 176 off 356, which 356 with Ben Stokes, like you said, is normally on the high side. You'd normally see about 300 to 280.
I say that. I want to see Ben Stokes
but
bat
it was
innings
measured,
like that.
Wasn't it?
I want to see him come in and not just... Because he can bat. I think we all know, especially after last summer, the guy can bat.
But we don't want him playing hero ball every time he comes in.
I don't want a quick 50, which was useful, but doesn't win your side a game. That 176, that if England win this game, it's because they put a massive total on the board. And, currently, as we're recording this, West Indies are in to bat. They're coming up on the point to avoid the follow-on, but if they do have to follow on, England will be looking to put them away and win this game. So if West Indies can, avoid the follow-on, send England into bat again, they'll be probably hoping for a draw.
I feel like I know we predicted a draw in the last podcast, but I feel like we've been robbed a bit with the third day washout, and it's kind of ruined the whole flow of the game, and it would have been nice to see England really push now for the win. But it's looking like it's going to be a draw unless there's a load of heroics from the English bowlers.
Yeah,
now,
I think after the third day washout, they said England need 19 wickets in 2 days to win this game.
Which you could definitely see at the rate they're going. And I also want to mention how good the bowlers were at the batting and the runs that they scored that really helped cement a great 469.
Dom Best came in with a little cameo, quick 30. But that's one thing I'll give to Sibley's credit is when the time came to push on, he did actually. I mean, he lost his wicket in the end, but he did actually try, to push on. I think Ben Stokes was scoring at a decent rate, and there was a double 100 on the table for him to take if he wanted it. Not saying that I think, I'm not disappointed in the way he batted very well, but he could have had the double 100 if he'd wanted it,
didn't he?
I don't even think so. I think they were at the point where, they wanted to get past 500. And some of the West, like Shannon Gabriel, what an unreal first test he had. He was not good. You could see he was very frustrated.
Do you think that was the pitch, the conditions, or...?
The conditions were perfect for the bowl. That's why they bowled first. Yeah. They could not have asked for better bowling conditions.
Which they said no one's ever done and won or something, that someone's picked to bowl first at this ground.
It was cloudy. It was very likely to rain, and the ball was moving. It was moving a lot. There's a lot in the ground for pace bowlers because they could swing the ball a mile. Yeah. And Roston Chase took advantage of that with his 5 wickets. And nice to see Kemar Roach get a few in the bag.
Yeah.
But I think Shannon Gabriel could tell. I think he tweaked a hamstring or something because he went off for a bit, but he came back. He was very frustrated. He missed an easy run out that could have got them in for tea. Half an hour, 40 minutes earlier, and you could see that everyone's faces just sink when he didn't get it because it was easy. Yeah. It was, under 11 stuff that he should have taken there.
Like I said, it was good to see Chase get his 5 wickets, but it was
unbelievable.
But it was quite expensive at 172 runs. So
I think.
But he did bowl 44 overs. So
Ben Stokes played very well against spin as well. He did play the spin very well. But there were chances as well. There were a lot of chances to break that partnership. I can't remember whether it was Stokes or Sibley that was dropped. One of them was dropped in the slips by Jason Holder. And, run outs. And I think that's been the one area that's let the West Indies down in these tests.
Partnership, wasn't it? Like
200
odd runs.
Record-breaking partnership at that ground. Wow. It was a lot. But I think the West Indies will look back and they'll be very disappointed in their performance in the field because it just wasn't good enough. It wasn't up to scratch in the first test either. I think if they're looking to improve somewhere, that'll be where it is. So far, Brathwaite's got another useful 60 in this second test, and so I think I would like to see him, because he gets to that point where he's like, he could go on and score 100, and he's just messed it up the first couple of times. Yeah.
And they've lost 8 wickets now for 260, so...
Was that the score? So they've avoided the follow. They haven't avoided the follow. I think it's 270 something. So...
Yeah.
Well, we'll see. Maybe by the end of this podcast.
There could be a chance if they keep bowling. Curran's looking pretty good.
Yeah, Curran's a very useful bowler.
Broad obviously doing what Broad does, just taking wickets.
I think he'll feel very hard done by to not have been included in the first test.
Yeah. He's a robot in a way with that sort of thing. He just comes in, gets wickets, leaves. He's just Mr. Consistent for England.
Shall we move on to the football? Once again, I think we should just rename this segment as the segment that Nath will contribute absolutely nothing. Welcome to the Evans
Corner. Welcome to Evans Corner.
Evans Corner. Let's call it that.
Today, it's well, we've got to talk about the FA Cup because as we're recording this, Man United haven't kicked off for their semi-final against Chelsea, but I did want to make a special mention of the job that Arsenal did yesterday on Man City when they did a fantastic job of sitting in and just keeping everything in front of them, negating the City attacks and passing it around in the box, and they came out with a 2-0 victory, and Arteta did a number over on his former mentor in Pep, and you got to say it was right what they needed. I mean, in a week they've beat Liverpool and Man City.
Yeah.
When 2 weeks ago they were looking dreadful and losing to Brighton. Well, it might have been a bit more than 3 weeks, but they haven't really shown anything that would lead you to believe, oh, they can actually push on for Europe next year or do anything.
Yeah.
And they actually look like they've found something with David Luiz, who looks rejuvenated. I don't know how he actually looks like.
I think we spoke about him in the first episode of the podcast where he was not.
He looks like a viable centre-back.
He was not having a good time.
No. And I think Arteta made a good tactical thing. He switched to a 3-back against Liverpool and City, and it seems to have let Tierney at centre-back really flourish. And the number that Tierney did at centre-back on that right-hand side was amazing. He completely shut down Mahrez, and everything they tried to send at the right, they were getting no joy. Yeah. And so they were forced to either put it back to the middle or put it out to the left. And I mean, Benjamin Mendy's crossing was woeful. I mean, it's one of the worst performances I've seen by a fullback crossing the ball in quite a while. There was nothing hitting the box. I think maybe one or two actually got to a target, but there was. You couldn't even say like with Liverpool, you could say Arsenal were a bit lucky. They were gifted their 2 goals. Yeah. By Alisson and Van Dijk, which two people you wouldn't expect, but at least in this game, City only had 1 shot on target. They had 16 shots, but 1 shot on target, which is
not up to scratch, really, is it?
That's not up to scratch. And against Arsenal, who've been leaking goals especially to them as well, you would have thought, oh, it's going to be a bit more difficult for Arsenal to keep them out, but they seem to do a brilliant job. And to be honest, there weren't many times when they actually looked in danger. Like, City had them under the pump coming out of the second half for about half an hour, but Arsenal's defending was actually very good, and it actually worked, and it's put them in another final, searching to extend their record that they've got of FA Cups, which they've won the most of. Obviously, Chelsea United coming up today, which will be good for both teams because nice to get a bit of silverware. And as we speak, going back to the top 4, I didn't want to speak about it, but I've got to speak about it. Leicester, yet again, are throwing it away. They're 3-0 down to Tottenham, which for Man United fans, which I am one, which we've already mentioned, it's brilliant because this is dragging Leicester's goal difference down. And if United can get a result against West Ham, top 4's on. And listen, a club with the stature of Man United should not be celebrating top 4, but what we've had to endure recently and some of the performances that we've seen from our side, especially against Burnley, this season was one of the worst things I've ever seen at home. You can't lose 2-0 to Burnley at home in those circumstances.
No, not when you're Man United.
No, and to get top 4 would be a massive achievement for Ollie. It will do him the world of good. And with the players coming in, Bruno Fernandes looking like the signing of the season. I mean, there's not much competition. I think Danny Ings probably would take signing of the season because he could win a golden boot, which would be phenomenal for Danny Ings. But you've got to give it to Ollie. He's done a good job since Bruno's come in. We're still unbeaten in 17 or 18 games now.
Yeah, can't remember, 17 or 18.
They've got to try and make the FA Cup final now. They've still got the Europa.
What do you think about relegation?
Oh, you got to feel for Bournemouth. I like Bournemouth and I like Villa. I like them as clubs. And Watford today have just got rid of Nigel Pearson with 2 games to go. Have sacked their manager and they're only 3 points above the drop zone. I don't know what that club is doing. It's like they want to go down.
Do you think there's any hope for anyone now?
I think after Southampton just beat Bournemouth today, I think this might be it. I think you're looking at Norwich, Bournemouth and Aston Villa to go down because Brighton and West Ham are now 6 points clear. So unless they win both their games. Well,
West Ham done a little cameo back in the Premier League, haven't they?
Yeah, it's they're back up and down. They're joining Norwich as the yo-yos of the Premier League now. Hopefully they'll be back. You do like to see Villa in the league. I mean, maybe not so much some of the players, but
what about the teams coming up?
The teams coming up. Well, obviously, the wait is over for Leeds fans. 16 years they've had to wait. And they finally got back with Marcelo Bielsa, and it seems like that second place, no one wanted to grab it yesterday with Brentford losing after West Brom failed to get a result against lowly Huddersfield. They failed to get a result against Stoke, who Stoke are not the team that they used to be in the Premier League at the Britannia with Delap and Crouch and those players. They're not the same team, and Brentford just really messed that up. They had the chance and they've done it, but I think, looking at it, I think Brentford are playing with more confidence right now, but it's going to be tough for Slaven Bilic to overcome what's happened. But they have got a decent draw, so it could be. I'm going to go with Brentford though. I'm going to stick it out there, but I'll probably be wrong now, and West Brom will come out and slap whoever they're playing. But I think Brentford have earned it in this second half of the season, and they've really played well. But yeah, I think. We wanted to talk about the questions that we've had.
Do you want to talk about the NBA first?
No.
Should we do the questions last? We can wrap up with that.
Yeah, okay. We'll do that then.
I know you wanted to talk a bit about NBA restarting.
Oh, well, it's we've got 12 days now until the restart, and it's a bit convoluted, I won't lie. It's not the easiest thing to understand because...
Do you want to run us through it?
Yeah.
So what you understand of what's
so what they're doing is they're obviously restarting the season with their 10 games to go, or however many games they've got left to go, and they're going to have a system whereby they've only brought 22 teams back to play out the rest of the season because they feel like the other teams, like the Bulls, the Knicks, the Pistons, like, the lower teams in the conference haven't got a chance. And then they've taken them all down to Orlando, to Disneyland, and they're all staying in Disney World, literally self-isolating in this bubble. And what they're going to do is they're just going to play out the rest of the season with those 22 teams.
Yeah.
And they're going to... There's a thing where if by the 9th place team in the conference gets within 4 games of the 8th place team, they will then have they'll have a best of 2 series where the number 9 seed will have to win 2 games against the number 8 and to get their spot. So then the number 8, so they've got to win both games. This
sounds almost overcomplicated.
It is overcomplicated, but they've really tried, because you look at the teams that they've included, which would be from 9th, which is Portland, great team with Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum. That kind of backcourt pairing is brilliant. You've got the Pelicans, obviously Zion Williamson coming in and is wowing the league. The Kings, the Spurs and the Suns, the last 3 really aren't, but the 2 that they really, I think, want to get in is New Orleans, get Zion Williamson, the phenom, the young, just come out, number 1 pick. They want to get him in the playoffs, really, because the revenue would go through the roof. And I think that's why they've included 22 teams, because obviously they lost the back end of their season after Rudy Gobert got coronavirus, was before they were going to play the OKC Thunder.
Yes, and I distinctly remember that. And
literally just put the whole season on hold, and that was really the first sport around the world that got stopped and shut down, and then it all, obviously, we know what happened after that. But I think it's going to be good, and I think it'd be good for the league just to see some basketball, even if...
I think the more sport returns, it's good to have sport back. Like, it's been really nice just to be able to sit down and...
Now,
there's a lot of effort being put in around the world to bring sport back in a safe way.
I think...
And it's nice to see.
What I'm going to do, just to, add a bit of flavour to this, is I'm going to just give what I think the Eastern Conference Finals will be, which...
Let's hear it.
I think the Eastern Conference Finals will be the Milwaukee Bucks, because they're just too good under Giannis Antetokounmpo and Chris Middleton, and Mike Budenholzer's just got that team firing. They've got the most wins in the league this year. Looks like they're going to finish with the best record again for the second season in a row. And I think I'm going to go with an outside pick. I think I'm going to go with... I want to say the Miami Heat. I want to say the Miami Heat are going to shock everyone and make the Eastern Conference Finals. You can't put the Brooklyn Nets in because half of their team has decided not to go. for whatever reasons. Their best players haven't gone, which you're kind of like, well, that's them gone. And you could see Washington, who somehow there because they're 5 games back, make the playoffs, because the 24-40 record getting in the playoffs is ridiculous, to be honest. You can't have that. They're terrible teams. And I think I've got to pick the Western Conference. You've got to go for the teams that everyone wants to see in the Lakers and the Clippers, the 2 LA teams, Western Conference, LeBron versus Kawhi, Paul George versus Anthony Davis. The matchups will be amazing. I know the Lakers have lost a few players in Rondo and Avery Bradley, which does hurt their chances. They picked up J.R. Smith, but I think that's the pick. And I'm going to go early, and I'm going to say that the Lakers are going to win the title. Okay. I think they could do it, but I'm not too sure. I've got to see how they come back. But my early pick, I'm going to pick the Lakers, because LeBron looks like he's on a mission right now, calling himself the washed king. And, he's just basically taking the mick out of everyone that's doubted him this season. And he's looked amazing with his assists. He's become more of a facilitator in the point guard role rather than the small forward that he was. He kind of always played point forward, really. He was always distributing the ball anyway. But now he's really stepped it up, and I think he leads the league in assists. Players to watch out for: Luka Doncic of the Dallas Mavericks. The young player from Europe is incredible. He's amazing. He just scores buckets. He doesn't defend at all. He's not a defender, but his scoring is phenomenal. And, I think the young Slovenian will keep shining, and he's already got an all-star vote, and I think it's his time to really grab it. Yeah. But they would have to play the Clippers in the first round, which I don't know if they can get past the Clippers, but a healthy Luka and Kristaps Porzingis, and maybe some of the players coming back, their role players have been big for them. So they could have a chance, but I think the Clippers are looking mighty good, especially if they pick it up now after this break.
Sounds like you're pretty excited for it to
return. I can't wait. It's only 12 days, and then we get basketball back.
So we're coming towards the end of the allotted hour we tend to give ourselves to finish these off in. It's quite a nice time chunk, an hour, isn't it? It's easy listening if it's an hour. Yeah. But we had a few messages about, especially about the Lions team. We said, if you have any suggestions, please get in contact with us. So, and
we're more than okay. If anyone wants us to read out a question or answer something that
if you want to send us a question, it's quite nice, to have people sending questions, and it's nice that people have actually listened to it and it's actually engaged. It's really nice.
And we do appreciate everything that we've got. All the feedback that we've received from people
definitely
that have listened to it. We do appreciate it.
Definitely.
And we have had quite good questions.
Yeah, we really have.
Yeah.
But I think the one that was good for us was about the Lions team. We'll run through it again, the whole team, and then we'll talk about some of the suggested changes that
I think really it's just the backs we need to run through, isn't it? That's what.
Yeah, we'll just go through it. Okay, we'll go for it from the.
I was going to say there's a lot. That was where the main issues were.
I think the forwards were pretty good. So, at number 1 we got Mako Vunipola, Jamie George, and Ty Furlong in the front three, which I think that's a pretty solid front three. Yeah,
hard to knock that, isn't it?
Yeah. In the second row we got Mauro Toje and James Ryan. As Welsh fans, we would love it if Alan Wynne was in at number 4, but we were just thinking about whether or not he'll want to go on that tour.
We pick with our head more than our heart.
Yeah,
really.
I would love to see him go on that tour. If he does decide to go, I would put him in at number 4. But and then 6 and 7, we got Tom Curry and Justin Tipperick, which will be a formidable pairing. Yeah. Both great running number 7s, both fantastic at the breakdown.
That Jackal is going to be
and they're both great running with the ball.
I think that's actually some of their biggest strengths. I think that's actually Tipperick's best quality is his ball in hand. Yeah, I think he's done well to fill in the void from what Warburton had in the Jackal.
That's the thing. Don't get me wrong. The last generation of Lions back rows, for a long time you had that Dan Lydia and Sam Warburton pairing, and it was a great pairing. And at the breakdown and tackling, Dan Lydia, what a fantastic tackler Dan
Lydia was amazing. That game against France is the one game that I always remember.
And don't get me wrong,
hitting everyone.
Tom Curry and Justin Tipperick are both fantastic tacklers, but they've got that extra element, especially Justin Tipperick, But Tom Curry's nothing to be scoffed at on the ball. But Justin Timberlake, he can make yards. He will make yards for you as a running utility back row forward. And then number 8 we got CJ Stander. Again, I think that's a good pick. There are other number 8s, but for me, I think he would be the top one that I would choose.
Yeah, I think he's going to bring the steel going back. He's obviously South African partly, so I think that it'll be good to bring the steel that he's got, because you watch him playing for Ireland and he has got that intensity and he's got the physicality that I think you need, that was shown with England in the final against South Africa. You've got to bring physicality, because they will just send wave and wave and they'll control the game. They do not care about making it flashy, making it exciting. They will just wear you down and hit everything 100 miles an hour.
For me as well, I just feel like I need to see more from Josh Navidi before. I think if you're going to take a replacement 8, or maybe he might even be a starting 8, again, there's so much contention between spots in this team. I think, Billy Vunipola would be the other obvious choice for another 8 you would take. I need to see more from Navidi. Maybe in this,
I think actually his World Cup might have played him into contention for the back. For the bench.
I mean, I think he's a fantastic number 8, but I think I've seen lots of consistent performances from Billy and CJ. I would include those.
I think recently he's looked better at 8 than he did at flanker for Wales.
Josh Navidi.
Yeah, and
I agree.
And I think in some of the games against some of the provincial teams, you could definitely play the Wainwright, Tipperick, Navidi if they're all fit.
And I think Wainwright would be on the bench for me. It might, to be honest, you might not even start him on the bench. He has been that good, you might start him. But for me, I think, there's so many. The back row is one place this Lions team just doesn't land.
I think Wainwright is.
He's in the team.
He's a shoe-in.
He's in the team, 100%. Whether or not he starts,
I think it would be criminal if he's
that's
not.
Up to the coaches. But he's definitely good enough to start.
And we know 100%. That in the Northern Hemisphere, there's so much back row talent.
It's crazy how much.
We're stacked everywhere. Every team, you look at it, Hamish Watson's. Every
he's
team.
Got to go as well.
Yeah, I know.
He's got to go as well.
I know. You've got a soft spot for
I
him.
love
every team has got an established back 3 that you could put in. You could interchange most of the players for each other, but it's where it gets to the backs this is where we had the comments were about the backs.
Yeah,
really.
Most of them were about the backs, and most of them were about the back 3 as well. And the centres actually. But if we go to number 9, we had Gareth Davis.
Yeah.
Again, I think he's very good at controlling the game. He's very good at, off the base of scrums and the ruck of making plays. He doesn't just fling the ball out. He's a fantastic running number. I think in terms of running on the ball, he's the best in the Northern Hemisphere. In terms of running number 9s.
Obviously going to match up well with Faf, because you've got to watch de Klerk. Coming off the base for South Africa.
He is.
And no one can do it, really.
They both got the flair.
Yeah. Faf de Klerk didn't look as good against Wales as he did against England, but he looked good in both games. We're not saying that Wales did a better job of negating him, which, we could easily say, but it was just, you've got to watch him, because Faf de Klerk is so sneaky.
Yeah.
He'll just go for anything. He's brilliant.
I don't know if you agree, but I think the 9 shirt in England, sometimes I think they struggle to find someone that fits in that shirt.
I agree.
Because I think Farrell or George Ford at 10, you need to build the 9 and 12 roles around them for me, because they're just so good. Like either one, Farrell or Ford in 10, they are so good that I personally feel like you should build the 12 and 9 roles around them, because they're always going to be in that team for me, especially Farrell and Ford for me are just 2 players that England can't build a backline without them in it. So if you're going to pick a 9 that works well with one of those 2, and pick a 12 that works well, because that's why in the centre England have always been strong, because they work well. If you, especially Ford and Farrell, Ford,
an axis 10, they call it, isn't it?
I think 10, I would pick a 9 if I was the England selectors. I would pick a 9 that works well with one of them 2.
Yeah,
that would be. That's definitely going off topic.
Yeah, but this is our thing. We always go off topic with rugby.
Well, this is the thing as well. We had 10.
There's so much debate
in this line. We had Finn Russell at 10, which again, Finn Russell is unreal. And like you said, the axis with Farrell, we've picked a 12. Yeah, that'll just make for some insane plays. And like the questions that we got, people said, I agree with that. Finn Russell and Owen Farrell at 10 and 12. That will be amazing. We didn't have anyone that complained about Josh Adams at 11 either. I feel like it's hard to disagree with picking him.
I don't actually think anyone disagreed with that at all, because how can you?
No,
he's a top point scorer. He's literally what a winger needs to be, and that's so. The main point that was brought up was about
13 and 15.
13 and 15, kind of bringing in 10, but we thought that Finn with Farrell that's the creativity and the work that you're going to get there. And Farrell, as much as he has moments where he does have a high shot here or there, or a bit of a lapse defensively, we're not going to, he's an amazing player. We're not discrediting what he is. He's probably the best player for England by not so much of a mile as it would have been, but because of Toje you've got.
Yeah.
But I think you got to look at him as the best England player
in the back line.
And so we were trying to. The question we got asked was, would you put anyone with him? Essentially, would you put Tuolangi there?
I think Tuolangi would be, because they work well together.
Would you put Davis, Bundy, Aki? There's a lot of options at 13, but who would your pick be?
I think Manu fits that spot for me. Like you said, it's gonna need to be physical. Yeah. And in terms of physical 13s, I mean, all three of those players though, Aki, Manu, and Jonathan Davis, all fit that role of physical 13s. They will break the line. They will make big tackles.
Handling and everything.
Yeah, all great at handling. I mean, Jonathan Davis sometimes holds the ball for a step too far, but again,
well, I'm not
pedantics. But I think you'd struggle to pick one over the other. I think for me, my preference would be Manu, because for me, Farrell has to start at 12.
Yeah, but
I don't think any of the Welsh 12 options, or
no,
I think Ringrose maybe.
Yeah,
you could start at 12, but
I think if you really wanted to play physical, you'd have Farrell or Finn at 10. Personally, you'd probably have Farrell at 10, and then you could have Manu inside, which would be deadly. Yeah, and then you could put Davis or Aki outside, and you've got.
If you wanted to go for the physical,
completely physical, because we know the South Africans are physical, but I think personally, I think what we said about the Farrell Tuolangi combination
in 12 and 13 is great. Both extremely strong defensively, but then again, both the other two are as well. Very strong defensively. And I think that 13 in the back row for me are the most contested shirts.
And I think 13, you've got three world-class players in Bundy Aki, Manu Tuolangi, and Jonathan Davis.
Yeah, you can't disagree with picking either of them.
Three of the best outside centres in the world.
And the thing is, you could really take all three of those on the tour, because they can all play 12 as well. So it might
be interesting seeing Davis playing 12.
I don't know if you agree, but I just think all three of those are going to get taken on that tour.
I think if they're going to stack the centres, I'd definitely pick all three.
I would, 100%. Who are you picking to replace Farrell? That's a dedicated 12. I would just take those three.
Exactly. And I think another place that we could have changed, maybe Watson outside of 14, possibly for Johnny May, but we're thinking more. I think actually Watson might be a better option. He's got a bit more to him.
He can contest for that shirt.
Yeah,
it's just so hard to pick. I think this is one of the really talented eras in Northern Hemisphere rugby. There's so much talent. It's hard to choose. As that's the thing, another suggestion that was made to us was Stuart Hogg at 15.
And this was probably the one that everyone was going to say, because obviously everyone knows Hogg. They know his brand. They know his name.
Yeah.
And we just think that Liam Williams offers more in just more options, and we just think he's a better player, if we're honest.
I personally feel it could be biased because I'm Welsh. It could be. But for me, I think Liam Williams at the moment for me is the best number 15 in the world.
I wouldn't disagree, and I actually think he's the best player in the Welsh team at the moment.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
There's people that could challenge him, but I think
it's for me it's between him and Wainwright.
Yeah,
after the last Six Nations campaign.
Since some of the players have retired, I think you got the people that you look at in Wales. You got Bigger. You've got Davis, you've got Williams, you've got Adams. We're building something. We just need those in-betweens.
Yeah.
We need a good 12 now that we haven't had for a while, since Jamie Roberts. Might not have been the most exciting player, but he did a job for Gatland, and he won us games just by his presence on the pitch. And we haven't found a replacement. Scott Williams doesn't work. I know we've had Hadley Parks, but
he's not playing next season,
he can't play. He's going to Japan, so he can't play for Wales anymore.
We need to find some, and there's a lot of young talent at 12 as well. Like Tyler Morgan, people like that. They can And he's played for Wales before, and he played well. I think we need to get some, because we don't have any, like you said, we had Jamie Roberts, and he played for Wales for a long time. And we never found someone that would slot into that shirt. And we need to find someone.
Anyway, going back to the Hogg versus Liam Williams debate, I think the Hogg is an amazing player, don't get us wrong. We do think he's going to be on the tour. If he's not 1, he's going to be 2 in terms of the fullback. We just prefer the way that Liam Williams plays, what he gives to the shirt, what he offers. I think you got
2, and I think if you have Williams at 15, Hogg likes to run a lot, with the ball. He's excellent with the ball in hand. Probably better than Williams, actually. I think with the ball in hand, he can make more things happen.
I don't know. That play he made against New Zealand on the last tour, though.
Yeah, but I think the main benefit that comes from having Liam Williams in the team is he's just so good under the high ball. Yeah. Which, again, Hogg is good, but I think Williams is better.
I just think...
he's so reliable. If you have him hanging back when, you need him, he'll catch the ball, and he is an excellent tackler. Yeah, and I think those 2 things make him a strong, because you don't just want to run him fullback.
And Hogg's tackling is definitely one of his weaknesses.
Yeah,
he's very susceptible to being beaten quite easily, if we're honest.
But he's a bit like a Josh Adams in the sense that he can make something out of nothing, which is, I think, if you were going to pick a benefit for having him in the team over Liam Williams, it would probably be that for me. But Williams does everything a fullback should do so well.
The perfect way is that they don't, Josh Adams does not tackle with technique fully, if we're honest. He goes for the ball, but he wants to get the man. He's not afraid to put his head in. Yeah. And Liam Williams is the same. He will give everything for that shirt. And we're not saying Hogg won't, but we think that just that steal, isn't it?
The dedication. Yeah. He'll challenge for any high ball. He will go for it, no matter how terrifying or unlikely as he will go for the ball. If there's a big man through, breaks the line, he will make that tackle. And I think that is, personally, if I was going to choose a fullback for a team, I would pick that kind of player more than someone who, when they have the ball in hand, because you've got players like that. You've got your Finn Russells, you've got your own Farrells, you've got your Johnny Mays or Anthony Watters. They can do that. In the back 3, they can do those roles. You don't need every player in the team to be able to do that. Yeah. At 15, I would prefer someone that can make the tackles when it counts, or can catch the high ball when it counts,
and not drop the ball over the line against Ireland. Yeah, from 2 meters out.
Let's just not bring that up in Stuart Hogg's defence.
Yeah, that was not the best look. A bit of a surprise question for you, though, Nathan. Just for you, who would you take as the backup 10 if you're not going to play? If you're going to play Farrell at 12,
if you played Farrell, dedicated 12.
Would you just take Bigger, or would you have Sexton? Because I know Ireland have had a great Six Nations, but
no, neither had a really good Six Nations.
No, I mean, Ireland have finished a bit better.
Yeah,
but who would you take? Do you think?
I think I would take Bigger.
Right.
Again, could be biased. I think Sexton is an excellent number 10, but I think he psychs himself out of the game sometimes. Yeah. England did that very well the last couple of times they've played Ireland. They have wound Sexton up to the point where he starts making mistakes. And I think a lot of teams have started to do that against Sexton, because sometimes his head goes down when he makes a few mistakes. Yeah. And I think that was either last year or the year before, where England literally just targeted Sexton, wound him up. He couldn't kick a ball. He couldn't kick a ball.
It's not just that, but the ball in hand, sometimes he does throw it loose to ground, and it high and wide. It does worry you that some of the things that people just put pressure on him, and he looks to lose his head a bit.
For me, he is the best runner with the ball out of the number 10s.
Yeah,
but Bigger and Finn Russell are better playmakers. Bigger is an excellent control in the back line and telling the forwards what he wants. And he's a
calming presence.
Yeah, and that's the thing. When you notice when Wales have trialled other 10s, every time Bigger comes on, they look to Bigger. Yeah. He's a very good leader, and he's a leader. He's the crux. He's the pivot in the team that everyone sort of rallies around. Whereas Finn Russell, you give him the ball, he makes magic happen. He really does make magic happen with the ball in hand.
For Racing, he nutmegged one of the Munster players, I believe.
He's just phenomenal with the ball in hand, which is why I would take him. The Farrell.
But I also think I think when you take Bigger, you also get that extra part to his game where he's one of the best 10s under the ball that I've ever seen.
He's amazing. He's fantastic defensively.
Yeah.
unreal defensive.
However, he is susceptible to injuries. I do feel.
He is. He does get injured, but that's because he really does put a lot on the line. He's a bit like Liam Williams. He makes the big tackles when it counts. He catches the high ball when it counts. But for me, I think starting, I would want Finn Russell because he'll just that. The game's changed because of Finn Russell's there. But yeah, I think that would be what I would do. Okay,
so that might have been a bit of a longer one, and it was definitely, this one felt a lot more opinionated to me, Nathan. I don't know about you.
It might have been. We might have let some personal opinion stuff in.
Yeah, we may have, but that's what you got to do with these things. So we want to thank you for listening.
Yeah, thanks again. You guys have been really good. Thanks for sending in questions. Really like that. Thanks for sharing. A lot of our friends have shared stuff around, which has been great. Really appreciate it, and we're hopefully again going to put them out one a week, hopefully every Monday, so we can catch obviously no Formula 1 next week.
No,
so we will have to find something else to take up.
And I'm sure there'll probably be more football coming up then.
Yeah, definitely. We may. That's the other thing. Actually, we may get a few people to come on and talk about football. Just purely because I am not learned in the art of football. So, yeah, hopefully you guys got that to look forward to.
And basically you just get more of an opinion than just my voice about football, and someone else can actually talk about it. And we just think it'll be nice to add a new dynamic. We're not saying we're getting a third host. This is just going to be us two, but we're adding someone in who
just to come and talk about the football.
Just come and have a chat, basically.
But yeah, drop a like on the video, share around if you can. Another thing, Apple Podcast, Spotify.
Yes.
This may already be on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. But if it's not, it will be coming very soon.
Yes,
so keep a lookout for that. Make sure you follow us on there. Make sure you drop us a sub down below. Drop a like, really does help.
Follow our socials.
Yeah, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. I haven't really used Twitter that much, but Instagram and Facebook.
Yeah.
We're definitely staying up to date with those. So, thanks very much, and we'll see you again next week.
Thank you very much. Cheers. Thanks, Nath.